mathreps stand for math repetitions. And when you click on the assignment, you will be able to get a Google slide that look just like this with different numbers. Please remember, this is your assignment math rep. There's just one Google slide in there that you have to finish and click on submit when you're done. Okay. The note down here is saying that no work is due on the same day or the same week is being assigned. This is the problem that I did with class, and I show it in the link in your Canvas class under guided practice. Now this is a similar problem that we're going to do, and the only difference is that the equation here changed, and we have more solving equation 2-step that we are going to practice down here. So let me see if I can zoom it in. We have the equation of 1/2 x minus 1, the table or point x and y. XY chart or table can also be called T chart, and it can be vertical or horizontal. This is the XY chart that we are going to fill out. We mentioned in the last one that you want to pick some negative number, some positive number, and zero number you cannot forget. Pick easy number. Now, before you pick the number, and like I said, you can pick any number if we don't give it to you on this table. If we did give you the number, let's say we give you the number of 18, okay, then you must use the number we give and substitute it to find y. But if we don't give you any number and we ask you to fill out the XY chart or the T chart, and you want to pick number that you would be able to graph. You see on the x-axis right here, this is the x-axis, the pink line right here, the x-axis right there only have up to number -6. So you want to go ahead and pick number that you can graph, right? If we have 1 or 2 that is way out of range, I think that's okay because we only need like 2 or 3 points to graph it. So keep in mind about your graph when you're picking these number. Negative, I'm going to go ahead and start with -2. Okay, and then you want to go ahead and put -1 and 0 is the easiest number, right? We're going to still pick more number on the right, but I want to leave those two out for now on purpose, because we have a reason for that. So let's go ahead and fill out this -2. What do we get if we're going to substitute it in? So y equal, when I pick the x number, I substitute it in 1/2, guys. 1/2 just means that number x is going to be divided by 2. Okay, so you multiply it in x. 1/2 of x is just x divided by 2, and if we have a 1/3 or 1/6, that just means the number x divided by 6, the number x divided by 3. So right here I'm going to go ahead and substitute in the x, and I will get -2 divided by 2. Okay, 1/2 when I multiply half here, just think half of the number -2. Okay, and then we're going to subtract 1. So what is that going to give us? -2 divided by 2 give me -1. We have -1, and we also have -1. So that make a -2. Think in terms of money when you're not sure about a sign. Negative is when you don't have, you borrow. You borrow 1, you borrow 1 more, that means you borrow 2. So -2 is the answer there. -1, you are going to plug it in again, and you're going to get -1 for x. So basically half of -1 is, what's half of -1?
-0.5.
Yeah, 0.5. Thank you very much, Andrew. So 0.5, but remember it's half of negative, so we're going to still get negative as the answer, right? Let me go ahead and type that in here. -1 divided by 2. Okay, so -0.5 minus 1. And that will give me -1.5. -1.5. Okay, just like that. -1.5 is our answer here. We get a decimal, but as long as we are doing the math correctly, don't be afraid of the decimal. Okay, 0 is super easy. That's why you love 0. What's the answer? So 0 out right here. 0 times anything is 0. 0 divided by 2 is 0. Only when 2 divided by 0, that's when you get no solution or undefined. Remember, 0 on the denominator, you get undefined or no solution. But 0 divided by 2, 0 in the numerator or on the top, you will get 0. It's 0 out. And the answer is -1, right? So just put -1 in. Now I have 2 more boxes that I fill out for this table, and I left it out on purpose because we want to show you the smart way to pick number for x. One of the smart way to pick number for x, and we mentioned that x can be any number. If we are not given a number that we must use, x can be any number, and one of the smart way that we pick is we look at the range right here where we have to graph it later, right? And we don't want to pick it beyond that range. But you also want to look at the second thing. This is the number that divide by 2 when you pick. See, that's 1/2, right? So any number that you pick will be divided by 2. So picking smart number for x there will be any number that is divisible by 2. For example, 2 divided by 2, right? 4 divided by 2, we get a whole number. You see, that's a smart way to pick when we get a fraction to plug in and work with right there for x. Type in the chat box and give me some number other than 2 and 4. Or what else can be divided by 2 that we can pick for x? And remember, Miss Nong is not limiting you to just 6 number for graphing, okay? Any number. Can you give me other numbers?
6.
6, okay. 6 divided by 2, I get 3. That's good. Any other number?
8.
8, yeah, that's good. 1, we will get like a decimal number. You can see we pick -1 right there. We get decimal there. So 1 is probably not a good number. 10, good. 10 divided by 2, we get 5. And we're not limiting to the graph right here, which is asking. So we can pick 22, right? Random number. 28. Any number divided by 2. You see that? So here, let's go ahead and get back to this problem. We are now going to pick a number that will be divisible by 2, so we don't get decimal like this one. Okay, so we don't want decimal like that. So we will go ahead and put in, let's say a 4, and let's say a 6 over here. We only have those 2 spots left, so let's go ahead and put it in and find out. Half of 4 is 2, and then 2 minus 1 give you 1. So same thing, 1/2 times x, which is 6. So half of 6, or 6 divided by 2 is 3, right? 3 minus 1, I get 2. So my answer here is going to be 2. We are going to now go ahead and graph this equation, and we're going to show the graph right down here. You have 2 ways that you can graph. So I'm going to go over both ways that you can graph here. You can graph with the points, the t-chart or the xy, and so many names for it, right? But here's the t-chart. You just pick 2 points, and then the third point will check your line. You may also use the slope-intercept form. Remember this, 1/2 is the slope, m. The y-intercept is going to be -1. Okay, so those are the 2 information that you need if you graph by the slope-intercept form. So I'm going to show you the point first. Let's pick the point to graph. And why would I pick this one when I have whole number to pick, an easier number to pick, right? On your mathreps, the assignment you have, you see the blue and the award and the green circle right here. You can go ahead and select that. Just make sure that you get a cross, okay? The cross really tiny like that, cross like that on the object, and then you can move it out. Okay, and it will be on the first point we pick. Well, we can go ahead and go with -2, -2. So -2 is going to the left 2, and then -2 on the y, I move down 2. So once you pick the point and you put it on the graph, that's good. If you are selecting the dot, but it is a little arrow, and it will show you an arrow when you have that, then you're picking it up wrong, because it will just make the point bigger or the point smaller, and we don't want a big or small point. We just want to draft it, make sure that it's selected with, and we see a cross on it, And then with the cross, I can move it out. Okay, so 0, -1, and 0 on the x, and then down 1. Okay, so that's my next point there. I have 2 points already, and because I have choices, that's why I did not graph the point with the negative 1.5 right there. But if you have to graph that one, negative 1.5, I'm going to show you where to go. Negative, go to the left on x. Negative 1.5, we go down 1 and then half. So this pink point right here, see half? That's where you're going to graph that point. If we're going to have to graph that point. Sometimes we don't have a choice, right? We have to graph that. This is the next point that we're going to graph. We can actually put the line in and then just use the third point to check the graph. So here on the matrep, you are going to be able to graph this line and just graph it over here. And if you moved it, the dot at the end, it will move for you. Okay, so here I have it right there, and I want to drag this corner so that it can go through the second point. Let's go ahead and put our third point in, and then we can fix our line and make sure it's correct. So 4 and 1 is my last point. You only need 2 points to make a line, but you know, it's always good to double check. So with the 4 and 1, I go to the right 4, and then I go up 1 on the y-axis, and I put my point in. Okay, so did my line go through all 3 points? You can adjust it to make it go through the middle part, okay? And I'm going to place it on top. So I'm going to go ahead and cut and then paste it. And that way I can put it on top. Here's the guided practice. You have similar problem. And on the right hand side, you can see on the left hand side, we finish with the line graph, right? Remember, when you're graphing it on a piece of paper, anytime you graphed it, you're going to make the arrow at the end of the line. And remember, the end of the line means that it extends forever. If our graph is not limited to 6 and -6 there, it will continue on and make a straight line. Graphing with the slope-intercept form. So here's the graphing with the slope-intercept form, and I'm going to use the pink to make sure that you see this is our M, and this is our B, letter B, from the slope-intercept form. To remind you, y equal mx plus b. The letter M represents your slope, which is 1/2. The letter B represents your y-intercept. Okay, so it never changed for those letters. With this one, negative in front of the 1 belong to the 1. Okay, it doesn't belong to the x. So the sign in front, you have to be careful of that. And I'm going to use pink to show you guys how I would graph this. I would first locate this point. I would first locate this one. This is the y-intercept. Okay, so y-intercept means I go on the y-axis, which is right here. Okay, up and down there, and I go down 1, which is this point that I have. Okay, and I go over it with the pink now. And then from that point, that pink point, I'm going to count my slope. Notice that I don't go and count my slope from the origin, like the second point that I put there. That's the origin, the 0, 0. We count the slope from here. Go up 1, go over to the right 2, and that's the slope. Go up 1, go to the right 2, and you can see when it is a straight line, it can be repeat over and over. And I did it with the, the crooked line, so that's why I did the undo. By the way, a button that you want to make it your favorite is the undo. On your Chromebook, you just do Control Z, or on a PC, you do Control Z, and then on the Mac, you're going to do Command Z, okay, to undo what you did. So here, again, up 1, to the right 2, and that represents the slope rise over 1 here. Rise, I go up 1, because it's positive, I go up. Run, because it's positive, I run to the right. Okay, so run to the right. And you can see, even though it's off the chart, it should still repeat the same pattern. With that said, we're done, but I want to also show you another way that you could do this, and that's when you have a positive fraction, you can make your slope to be like this. So your slope M right here, right, can be also -1 over -2, because when we have negative on both numerator and denominator, it turned into positive, right? So when you have the negative 1 over negative 2, instead of going up, I'm going to go down. So from this intercept here, I go down 1 and then to the left 2 because it's negative 2 run, right? So down 1 to the left 2, and you can see it's still going to be on the same line. And we're going to go over to the right and fill out the shape. We call it linear line. You can change the color to red because that's our answers. The x-intercept, you can put it this way. X-intercept is where y equals 0. And you can see the x there when y equals 0 right here. That's the x-intercept where it's cutting the x-axis. Here is the y-intercept. 0 and going down 1. So 0, negative 1. Circle this. This is the y-intercept because y has a number, x is 0. You see that? That's the y-intercept. That's the y-intercept we put in 0, negative 1 right there from the t-chart. We can get it from the t-chart or from the graph. We are going to continue with the next one. Is it increasing or decreasing? You look from the left to the right. If it's going up, it's increasing. If it's going down, it's negative slope and it's decreasing. So here the answer is increasing. Is it a function? If you forgot about how to test for a function, I want you to go ahead and check out the video on is it a function or test for a function again. We have it covered earlier in Canvas and we still post the video there for you. Now the next part is going to be solving the equation 2-step. This time we have the equation 2-step with the fraction. So I want you to remember we showed you last time what has been done to x and then you just undo it, okay? So here I'm going to try it again over here. Once you have enough practice, you do not have to do the do and the undo chart. But if you do not have enough practice and you're not sure which one do I do first, you can go ahead and work out this chart on a scratch paper. So do and undo. Okay, undo is where we solved it. So what has been done to the x? You're seeing the x on the right hand side. The sign in front belongs to the number right behind it, right? So it belongs to the x. It's actually dividing by negative 3. Okay, because that negative sign doesn't belong on the 6. That negative sign, be careful here, this is the common math mistakes. If you just put divide by 3, then you're going to undo by multiply by 3 and it's negative 3. The next step, the number 6, we have no sign in front of it, so that means it's adding 6. If there's no sign, it's a positive sign. Okay, so how do I undo it? I'm going to subtract 6 and remember, do the opposite of everything. This is the way that it looked like. For undoing, we're going to go this way, right? So we're going to subtract 6 on both sides. Remember, undo is doing the opposite of everything. Subtract 6. And then the next step, we're going to divide, so it's multiply, right? It's going to be multiplication. And I don't want to use the x because you might confuse it with the variable x. So I'm just going to use the parenthesis and leave it at that for multiplication. Divide by through negative 3, so I multiply exactly by that number, negative 3. And you might think that we don't have anything there. So let me go ahead and put a little dot in for multiplication. Okay, so the 2 dots stand for division. And then here we multiply to do the opposite, subtract 6. And remember, you are doing it to both sides. So subtract 6 to both sides. You're going to type that in when you get a chance. So 4 take away 6, I get negative 2. And that's what I'm going to fill in here. Equal, we want to line up the equal sign if possible. And then here it cancels out. So I only have negative x or x over negative 3. Whichever one you want to write it is fine. So we have x over 3 left here. And then I multiply 3 to both sides. So here's how I would write it on this one. I would mark the multiplication with the parenthesis so that it will not be confusing. And we want it outside there. So multiply by exactly negative 3. Okay, so I do that to both sides. So this side, I also have -2 times a -3. Okay, so you have to balance the equation. You have to do the same on both sides. So here on the left, I'm going to end up with -3 times -2, which turn into a positive. Negative times negative, positive, right? 6 for the left side. And we will go ahead and draw a line so that we know that it's simplified on the last step. You will notice that we have this one, and this is over 1. When we need a fraction, we can put 1 in the denominator anytime. We cannot put a 1 in the numerator unless it's already there, but 1 in the denominator, we can put it in. So that turned this one into a fraction, and if you multiply it in, you will get negative times negative is positive, and it turned into a 3 over 3, which is a 1. Okay, you see this? And this cancel out. And that's the reason why we do the opposite, right? So it cancels out, and we are only going to have positive x left. And your answer is going to be x equals 6. For the next problem, you're going to have, you see all of them have a denominator. So what I can do is, instead of working one by one, I'm going to get rid of all the denominator on the bottom. So how do I do that? I need to multiply a number big enough to cancel out all the denominator. So the best way that I would do that is find something that can be divisible by 3, divisible by 4, divisible by 6. Okay, so this is where we can say 3, well, 3 cannot divide by 4. We need a big enough number that can divide into all of them. So I'm going to see 18. Can 18 divide? I get 18 by taking the 6 multiply the 3, see? And 18 cannot divide by 4, right? And get a whole number. So no, not on 18. This is the part where we can do the guess and check. And what if I take 24? 6 times 4, 24. 24 is big enough, and I can divide by 3. 24 divided by 3, I get 8, right? A whole number. So 24 work. See what happened after you multiply it out. You will see magic happen, okay? So what is the magic? We are going to multiply 24 in. Basically, you're multiplying in with the numerator, and 24 is over 1. Okay, so that way it can be on the same line. We have fraction, multiply fraction. 24 times 1 is 24. Divide by.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Should be the least common denominator, that means 12?
12 is better. You are correct. Okay, Miss Maggie point out that you can also multiply 3 times 4, and the common denominator can be 12. And then we don't have to reduce the answer later. So that is one of the things that we can do. But let's say that we stick with 24. We just have to reduce the answer at the end. But that may not be the best number to multiply, right? 12 can also divide into all 3 of these, and then you have less to reduce later. But let's say I stick with 24, my very big number here. And what I'm going to get is 24 divided by 3, I get 8x, because 24x divided by 3, I still get 8x. Then remember, -3 times 24 divided by 4, you are going to get, or you can say, oh, okay, I can simplify by dividing 4 into 24 first, and I get 6. And then 6 times -3 is 18. We no longer have denominator, and that's the purpose for multiplying 24. Or Miss Maggie pointed out that you can also multiply a better number, which is 12. And you will be able to do the same. Okay? Get rid of the denominator. Over here on the right hand side, 24 multiplied to 1 over 6. You can make it over 1, and you're just going to multiply. Okay, I did not make that well. So this is over 1, and you just multiply it straight across. 24 times 1 is 24. 6 times 1 is 6. So divide that, and I will get 4. 6 go into 24 4 times. So let me go ahead and get rid of those marks. And I get 4 on this side. So let's type that in. Magic happened. No more denominator. So then the next step is you just add 18 to both sides to cancel out the 18. And you draw a line if it's possible, right? And so we can do underline to draw a line. And what's next? We get 8x going down. And we are going to have to put ax here, equal, remember to line up your equal sign. It's lined up there, but my line is crooked, so it did not go on there. 18 plus 4 give me 22. Okay, so the last step I have to do there is just the inverse of 8 times x. I divide 8 into both sides. I'm going to go ahead and make an arrow to put it over here for now. 8 divide on the left, 8 divided by 8, I get only 1x left. And then on the right hand side, I get 22 divided by 8. My fraction, 22 divided by 8 or 22 over 8, you can reduce it. I want to point out that if you use Miss Maggie number, you are going to have the less to simplify at the end, or maybe you don't even have to simplify when you use 12, okay, before. So here, the part on simplification, we're dividing both the top and bottom by the same number. I see I can divide by 2 because the last number is 2 and 8, so I know that I can reduce it by 2. And reducing, you divide by the same number. 22 divided by 2, I get 11. And then on the bottom, I get 8 divided by 2, I get 4. Okay. If I continue to divide, I will get a decimal. I'm going to stop here and say 11 over 4 is my answers. I don't want you to get the decimal and put it in. But know that if you divide 4 into 11, you can get a decimal, and on some of the quiz or tests or problems, we have to get the decimal answer, but some of the problems require you to know 11 over 4 is the answers. So we're going to stop it there, and that complete all of your math rep for this one. Now, it's your turn to do the math reps. Your assignment is in Canvas. You want to go ahead and when you finish it, upload it in Canvas and make sure that you turn it in. Thanks for watching. It's time to practice now.